it was amazing because, you know, even then, before this became a thing to do or a thing to be interested in, communities were actively taking ownership over the process of making their land edible, making edible landscapes. And so there's a lot of kind of like, you know, crossover, you know, with all of our different backgrounds. To say that one is Latino is essentially to say that one's the same thing as one is American, because it's the same deal. It's Native America meets Europe meets Africa. A little, well, not so much Central America, but enough to know that that's a connection. And so when you make these gardens happen, whether it's a school garden or a community garden or what have you, you have to take that into consideration. I want to talk about the ethnic side of the gardening later because I want to handle the history now and kind of give you a hint of a tip on some of the varieties you can use. I compiled a little list, which if you're nice to me, just email me and I will email it to you. My email is, this was pretty easy, koshersoul@gmail. What else would it be? KOSHERSOUL @gmail. So just email me and say, hey, I was at the presentation, give me the damn list. So I'll do it. I will do it. Hold me to it, because I'm that way. So this is pretty incredible. I could go on for days, you know, reading this. It's like the phone book. So I don't know if you know this or not, but the first Southern cookbook was written in Washington, D.C. in 1825. Mary Randolph, who's buried over at Arlington Cemetery, when it was Lee's Plantation, wrote this first Southern cookbook. She was running a boarding house in Washington after she was pretty much left half destitute by her husband. Now you don't really need to know this, but you do kind of need to know this. All these families, the Washingtons, the Lees, the Jeffersons, the Randolphs, were all intermarried, cousin to cousin, and so therefore they had a huge network. And a lot of enslaved money backing them. And Mary Randolph was called the Queen. That was her nickname. It's given her by the black folks. Because, I don't know if you know your history, but Gabriel Prosser in the early 1800s wanted to stage a revolt against slavery and take up arms. He said he was going to leave one white woman left. That was going to be Mary Randolph. Because she was going to cook, she was going to be the queen to cook for the nation. She was actually a very, how do I put this? She was definitely of her time, but she was very fair in the sense of she recognized the humanity of the enslaved people who worked with her. And that's why she was considered hands-off. And she wrote this incredible cookbook called The Virginia Housewife, which you can use pretty much as a guide for how you want, what do you want to select for a DC heritage garden that incorporates Native American, European, and African influences. Because in her book, you ready? Okay, I'll do this in one breath. No, I won't. She's talking about asparagus, beets, black-eyed peas, broccoli, cabbage, carrots, cauliflower, celery, cucumbers, potato pumpkins. Anybody know what a potato pumpkin is? Yeah, you do. Trust me. Okay, let me see. Weaver. By the way, you know, I don't suggest you do this on a regular basis, but my friend in residence in the room and I went to go see William Weaver at his house. And we listened to him complain for about an hour about how his garden's dry. And he didn't want me taking pictures of his garden. I did it anyway. It's amazing, you know. He's got a lot of knowledge. Very generous man. But that's kind of one model. That's one version of it on the cover. Okay? So it's called a cushaw. So yeah, yeah, right? They call it potato pumpkin back then because one of the things that enslaved folks did, they kind of set the tone. It was brought from Jamaica to Maryland and Virginia at the end of the 18th century. And note my surprise, went to this Caribbean cookbook, and from like the 1970s, from Time Life, and had a Jamaican woman filling this same kind of pumpkin. And both Washington and Jefferson wrote their friends on the island and said, or someone, one wrote England, one wrote Jamaica, and he said, pardon the word, our Negroes highly esteem this crop because it takes the place of sweet potatoes when they don't have any. They call it potato pumpkin. And it does have like a sweet potato taste to it. You've all had this, if you've ever had that god-awful Libby's pumpkin pie. Y'all see, y'all laugh and you know what you are. But at least now you can make a cushaw pie, which is really what you ate, and be a little more authentic about it. But it actually is a really nice thing. So going back to our list, I just want you to understand all these vegetables, all these crops have a context. All of them have a context. Let's go back to black-eyed peas for a hot second. I want you to understand this is a very important crop. When you grow field peas, when you grow cow peas, you grow black-eyed peas, you're growing something, I call it the vegetable as scripture. Because, you know, everybody in the room should know or does know that the black-eyed pea has the New Year significance. Where does that come from? In West Central Africa, black-eyed peas, cow peas, are a symbol of fertility. So, a couple of years ago, I worked again with the Smithsonian. I did a Virginia enslaved person's garden. When they did the 2007 anniversary of Jamestown, all that kind of good stuff. And I was really impressed with the number of people who were really into this garden and everything we were growing. We grew like 20-something different varieties of plants. And it was really beautiful and verdant. And this Somali guy comes up to me and he says, I'm from, you know, U Street area. And he has 2 kids with him. And I wasn't sure how this was going to go. He was the first visitor to the site. And he comes up to me after looking at this garden of, we had tobacco there, of course. We had every kind of little, you know, peanuts, all the stuff. And he brought his kids with him. And he hugged me and he said, "We black people grow everything." And I thought that was cool because he's from Somalia, which is the other part of the continent. But he just readily recognized it was part of our heritage. And the one thing that caught his eye, and one thing that caught the Senegalese ambassador's eye, was the black-eyed peas, which were already, these plants, by the way, when the Smithsonian does these little gardens and stuff, they started them in like December, the year previous, so when they put them out in the mall, it looks like, you know, Miracle Grow Central. So, the black-eyed pea is a symbol of fertility. Black-eyed pea is grown in virtually any warm climate, doesn't matter the amount of moisture. They're from the Sahel. They're used to dry climate. So, for example, in Senegal, when you want to give someone sadaqah, which is charity, you make them cooked black-eyed peas, and you actually have to go sit down with them on the street and feed them. So it's not just, I'm going to throw you a quarter because you're poor. It's, no, I'm actually going to take the time to sit down, feed you, and talk to you as a human being. And you're supposed to utter the words, just as the black-eyed pea will grow in any circumstance, you will flourish despite your circumstance. So I think that's a really beautiful message. But it's also a symbol of profundity, you know, because one black-eyed pea gives you, you know, this beautiful pod, and then more and more and more come with that. So I actually grew some black-eyed peas down in the garden, which was an old African-American folk practice. Basically, it means, may the women get pregnant. Now, I had a woman with 5 children who would not cross the circle in my garden. And I had a woman who obviously was trying to have some children, and she didn't notice that I noticed her going back and forth and back and forth. But the point being is that you can tell these kind of stories. Do your homework on the history of these vegetables. Like, I didn't know until a couple of years ago, until I ran into some Californians, that the amaranth was actually forbidden. People were forbidden to grow amaranth because of the red color was associated with one of the Aztec deities. And that was for just a very healthy, important, it's a healing plant, it's a healthy food plant. It was essential to the, you know, the Aztec diet, but the Spanish actually tried to drive out this plant, replacing it with the wheat of Catholicism that made the communion bread. That's deep, isn't it? Yeah. And they said that this plant was taken out because I think it was Quetzalcoatl or one of the other deities with a blood sacrifice thing. It was associated with him, so they took it out. But, you know, they're trying to reintroduce this crop because that's a healthier alternative to the wheat that's killing the Native Americans in the Southwest and the Mexican population today. You know, it's like one thing for the other. I don't know if you've seen this, guys, but there are several ethnic-based, I think there's Southern European, Mediterranean. Wow, they just keep showing up. Lord have mercy. You know, I think I should have some fishes and loaves here. But, wrong religion, whoops. Shabbos. There are food pyramids. What is it called? Old ways? You know about that?